Jó reggelt mindenkinek. My name is Bertold College, as Donny said. Thank you. Again, I come from a small company, Verosynth. We are like 20-person startup in Austin. I'm a testing specialist there. I wanted to set the context real quick. One thing I'm not, I want to tell you, because I hear a lot about manual testers, automation testers. I'm not the gatekeeper at this company. We do really suffer, as I am here away for 2 weeks. So that's one thing I not. As you can see on my LinkedIn profile, I like enabling testing, enabling others to be good at testing, but I'm not going to be standing in the way of releasing some product to the customer. You will see screenshots from our product during this presentation, and you can actually log in and sign up and see what we put in place in terms of using how we use LLMs, what you are going to hear about this today. One thing we will not hear today is not going to be a deep dive on LLMs or AIs. It's our story, how we embraced LLMs in our product and at our company. So why LLMs in the first place? So I think everybody remembers that watershed moment almost 2 years ago when suddenly GPT, a particular version, was released, and then suddenly it became available to the large masses. And you know, there are certainly, obviously, there are all kinds of businesses started exploring what kind of things, how can we leverage that? You know, first of all, to stay ahead of the competition, and if you are not using that, then you know, what if our competitors will, and they will gain advantage? So, and you know, we have seen in our industry a lot of cases where we have seen it just to again make it easier for our users to use a tool to reduce that burden, because there are, especially in the security space, there's quite a bit of manual inspection, manual work needed to find certain problems. And obviously, it's relatively low cost, it's broad availability. By now, we have so many different providers, so that not actually evaluating that technology would be a sin to some extent. So when we embraced or started off on this journey, I think the best way for us is we are, again, a scrappy startup. We're always busy. We are doing things. So the best way to clear or get started on this journey is maybe clear our calendar for a day or so, and this worked for us. So we set up a hackathon, and we had everybody on board to join. And then even if you just read a few articles or try out, sign up for a ChatGPT account or something else, then let's figure out how could we use it possibly in our context. I'm not going to read you all of the details, but for example, to me, one of the most interesting ones were that we use a particular domain-specific language to write business rules in our application. And since it had a particular schema, it was very easy to feed that into ChatGPT and translate a business language into actual code based on that, on a structure. I was kind of surprised about that. We didn't end up using it, but it was really cool to see that with a relative few hours of effort, we could get that done. So a little bit about our users in general, our customers. Again, Verosynth is in the security space, but one thing that we do know is that we consume a lot of log messages, events from our customers via an API, but it's the fraud specialists, the fraud analysts that use our web interface day to day. And who wants yet another tool to manage? Who wants to add something else that I need to cater to every day? No, we want to make it easier for these users to, find certain suspicious activities, discover fraud, and enable them to do this. And then, I'm saying this because we have clients that send us, over hundreds of thousands of events per day. This can be logins, sign-ups, or password change events, multi-factor prompts, and so on. This is a screenshot actually from our account that shows like a week, you know, and then, you know, finding fraud in this is just, you know, you can't imagine to have that manpower. So this is why we were thinking that maybe this is the way this could be a good way for us to get started and maybe help use LLMs to help hone or help focus the analysts to certain areas of suspicious activities. What you see here is the end result on this screenshot. So what we ended up doing, and I'm going to talk more detail about how we tested it, how we came to this end result. But, you know, we have what we wanted to show them is that just verbalize what we have found in the last period of time, what they may want to look at, and how you can see that without making it very easy for them to consume, without having to learn about statistical expressions and so on. So that's really the end result, is that what we call AI insights in our application. So we were even thinking about testing, and when I'm talking testing, it's not just me, it's the whole team, right? So because I tell everybody testing is a team activity. It's not just my job. So one thing that we were looking at the models in general is that, hey, how can I, refine and create a model if I don't really have the data, and how do we curate that data? And then, we are fortunately in a lucky situation where we could we got permissions from some of our clients to use the production data to try to help and refine this model, and then also give us a little bit of understanding by manually reviewing what we were producing with the LLMs, whether that matched the expectations. One of the key things that we kind of learned is that even during this manual testing stage is that, initially we thought that we may be able to use LLMs to do, or the large ChatGPT or anything else to do statistical analysis, but it turned out not to be the case. So we actually stepped back a little bit, and the implementation actually is feeding statistical data that we generate into the LLM, and we just help use LLMs to verbalize these findings. Of course, there are so many options, as we talked about. And one key thing I wanted to mention is because these privacy concerns come up, and of course, you don't want to leak information that may help your competitors, is that we are not sharing any kind of customer-specific data. So we are not labeling it. We are sharing, columns of or tables of data that are numbers, really, when we are feeding it into the LLM. So that is probably something you also want to consider, what is possible and what kind of guard rails are in place, so that you're not sharing something that you're not supposed to. Our costs are really low. I mean, $50 a month is almost like a drop in the bucket compared to our AWS costs in general. And when we were, again, trying out different kind of providers, we found it, especially for the English language, because I have to say that in our context, English is what we needed. We didn't really see a lot of differences between ChatGPT, ChatGPT 4.0, the ClotesNet. They have very similar APIs. They have very similar input parameters, like for temperature, top PM, whatnot. But one thing we did notice is that, these models change and evolve, and then, when you're testing or, your assumptions and testing how the application behaves, that's one thing that you want to be mindful of. But also, we did have some surprises every once in a while, and this was one of those. And actually, it's a screenshot from the real product where we had a particular activity pinned to the Prime Minister of Iran. And then, that's maybe one step too much to take. So we actually had to go back and think about how to refine the implementation. And that, that included a lot of manual inspections. I actually went through like almost or our team about 600 of these responses, making sure that we are prompting it right, and we are refine some of our prompting and so on, so that we got what we actually wanted, and we got to a right point where we didn't see this Mohammadi mentioned ever again. So that again took us some ways. Of course, we were also learning prompt engineering along the way. So moving a little bit into the test automation side of things, which is where I really wanted to spend a little bit more time on it, is that you all know that if you have used any of these LLMs, that it's very often the case that you ask the same question twice and you get two different answers. So traditionally, what we usually do is in testing that given this input, given this context, then I'll expect this output. Well, that will obviously not work when you want to test the large language models. So that's one thing. So what can you do instead? Because you still want to do. I don't want to be reviewing 600 output every day to make sure that the LLM is right. Because then is it really worth doing that in the first place if you can't automate some of the testing at least, or most of the testing if everything goes well. And we can focus on the properties of what kind of things do we expect to show up when I present the LLM this set of statistical data. These are the kind of indicators that I just put in some sort of some structured form. What kind of things do we expect to show up in the language? And we can test on those properties and make sure that those are actually valid. And one of the nice things that we did along the way in our context is that since we work detecting and preventing fraud, we obviously want to show our customers how does a particular attack or how does a particular fraud look like. So for that, we actually had to created a demo workspace where we have synthetic test data, and this is what we created. We wanted to build out an area where we can demonstrate and showcase these frauds. So how does an account takeover look like? When you have a stream of set of events, how does it manifest itself? So it turns out that this is actually a really good data to use for testing or the automation testing as well. We almost killed two birds with one stone. We have a demo works with this synthetic data that we created, and we can test how that manifests. And that data is also moving along the timeline every day as we are updating it. So that fit the purpose very well. And obviously, there are also commonalities with other regular test automation activities that you usually have. You want to focus on the highest value, what is most critical to you. I will talk a little bit about the language later. And, you want it to be stable. Nobody wants to deal with flaky tests. Frankly, I hate that term flaky test. If I could erase it, I would. It's either test design is wrong or the product is not testable. So to me, that's it. And obviously, the speed of execution. You don't want to be in the way of developers. We want these tests to be a part of the CI/CD pipeline. If something breaks, you don't deploy, and that way everybody will pay attention to all of these challenges. So the more challenging part is, so some of these harder test properties. How can you test some of these? How serious the risk is, what users' actions can take, and so on. And this is where what we call an auto-evaluator test thing kind of can come in. So you can actually, with these type of tests, you can feed back the output you receive from an LLM, and with appropriate prompting, ask yes or no kind of questions, whether from an LLM. This is why it gets really interesting, to see if those satisfy the criteria that you're looking for. And these are, again, in our context, these are the things that we were looking for. Time of day expectations. For example, we were asking that, hey, all of our data is in UTC, but we want you to, explain, or when you're referring to the time of day, then you use this particular time zone or not. Or, whether there are advanced statistical terms in the output or not. These are kind of things that, auto-evaluator tests can also help with. So these go beyond the basic level of unit testing, or even unit, I would say, maybe a little bit feature testing. So the implementation details, I mentioned the language before. So to me, it's, again, in test automation, it's good practice. Say, product code is in this language, test automation code in the same language. Why? Because I don't want to be maintaining tests. I don't want to be that tester's tool. I want developers to contribute to it too. So at the time, even though all of our backend is written in Go, we figured we will use Python because there's just a huge number of all the libraries available for handling big data, statistical libraries, as well as all these providers have their client SDKs available. So it's a perfect fit. It's not an obvious fit because you pick up a lot of third-party dependencies now that you have to maintain along the way. In the test code, we use obviously PyTest, which is a very commonly used, and LangChain just helps with the LLM. And some people also try to think about what kind of test levels you have, unit feature. In the merge request flows, that's MR, sorry, for GitHub folks is the pull request. But, and then, integration where we can do a little bit of those auto-evaluator tests. And we do also have some playwright-based tests where we test just how the user is conveyed those messages in the UI, just a few. These are not meant to be unit testing, and the LLM itself is mostly around the presentation. And getting to the end, to me, in our context, we wanted to, again, the goal was just to make it easier for the fraud specialists to focus their attention to the highest value, items that show up on their plate. And don't, we are evolving this. So next step for us is not just to highlight them, but maybe notify them on certain conditions. So that will be the next. We feel like that it is a good first step for us, and we see additional things that we can do with LLMs in the future. But at least we learned some experiences, and we wrote something out to the end users that is valuable to them. In general, I just suggest and encourage you to embrace this world. They are not going to be going away. You can always check what your competitors are doing, go to workshops, come to conferences like this, see what others can use LLMs for. Best thing that you can do is that if you have support from leadership, and if you can articulate the business value of how it could help your users and then possibly give you advantage, then that's all the better. So, and just in terms of development, I would like to think LLMs, when we are using this as part of our product, is like a third-party library. If it changes, if it updates, then that's you need to be thinking about that way as well. And that's it. I think my time is up. Thank you very much for your attention. This is all I had to share today. I hope you had enjoyed it. Please read the session. It helps me as well. If you want to contact me, I'm going to be around here, and then you can find me on this link as well. Thank you.
And now we have 5 minutes for the questions, so please use your Eventee application until this moment. There's no questions, but I have a few. So the usual question is, will AI take away my job? What is your response for that?
Yeah, I think it is. It often comes up. I listen to quite a few podcasts on testing and so on, and I feel like this is a wrong question to ask. We are all knowledge workers, and we just need to know how to leverage it. One thing that really stood out to me, I often listen to the Harvard Business Review's podcast. I highly recommend it, by the way, and that was this very interesting way of looking at it, is that instead of you looking at yourself as individual contributors, what your role is may be changing, so is that you may be working with a lot of these little machines that help you do the work. So you will become a little bit of managers, but not managers of people, but managers of tools with the AI in place. So maybe think about it that way. The assistants will be with us, and they hopefully will help us to do our jobs.
Thank you. What other examples of AIs can you see for helping testers?
Yeah, so to me, I've found, to be honest, code assistants to be a super helpful tool to me. Especially, you may find yourself when you're writing automated tests that there are a lot of repetition in it, and I found some of these code assistants quite helpful in figuring out what I wanted to do next after it kind of understood what I was going to do. But I also found it really great tool to summarize certain articles, topics, even podcasts for me, so that I can look at the key takeaways without having to go through all those things.
I see no more questions, so I would like to encourage you, if you don't want to ask it out loud today, that you can use the Attendees app to contact Bertold, or in person if you wish. And with that, I would like to ask another round of applause for you, Bertold.
Thank you so much. Köszönöm szépen, ugye.